What's going on, peeps? The more that I've been investigating this geek rock indie sphere of musical acts, I've been coming across some names that I've been familiar with for a long time. One of them being acclaimed rock band, They Might Be Giants. I saw that name and wondered to myself, where have I seen that name? I looked them up and lo and behold, I found out that they were the ones that made this.
Hot dog!
They Might Be Giants made the famous hot dog song for the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, a show that was practically inescapable as a kid. Used to close out the show. It all makes sense now. I remember seeing that name for a reason, but I also realized they made the theme song as well. After revisiting these pieces through an adult lens, I have to admit, these songs slap. They're not only good children's songs, they're just well put together musically in general. Catchy melodies that will stick in any child or adult's ears, playful, quirky vocal inflections and instruments full of flavor like an arrangement of brass, accordion, guitars, drums, and keyboards. This is the type of music that if you have a child, you can play without restrictions. They have a separate profile for a reason. Now it turns out that this band doesn't just make children's music. Way before these ventures, they began as a serious act in the 80s, easily the oldest band I have covered here. And it turns out this group has 23 albums. Now, I will only be covering their 18 original albums today, as I don't think it'd be necessary to talk about the 5 children's records they made, unless... Enough with the ramble, we've got a lot of ground to cover. Quick reminder, some of the interpretations I make of their songs will be based on my own personal observations. Others are confirmed. Beginning with how they got started. Sadly, they aren't actually giants. The tallest one's only 6 foot. They Might Be Giants was formed by 2 Johns, John Lennell and John Flansburgh. They first met in elementary school in Lincoln, Massachusetts, later becoming close friends in high school while working together on their school newspaper and creating comic books. After high school, Flansburgh and Lennell went their separate ways for college, but in 1981, they intentionally moved to New York together, with Flansburgh picking up Lennell on the way from Providence, and both securing apartments in the same Brooklyn building through a mutual friend. Shortly after arriving, Lennell stopped playing with his band, The Mundanes. In 1982, the Johns began collaborating musically, sharing equipment and recording on each other's demos. They briefly formed a trio with a mutual friend, Dave Lindsay, but after he left, the duo continued on their own, rehearsing extensively and developing their unique alternative rock sound. Their first live performance took place in Central Park on July 18, 1982, followed by adopting the name They Might Be Giants, and performing with pre-recorded backing tracks. Why not Dump Truck, Circle Gets the Square, or The Pencils? Well, their friend Raul Rosenberg had come up with a list of names for the band. This name was inspired by a 1971 film of the same name. They Might Be Giants was a fascinating one. They had no attachment to the film it was from, but they just loved how it sounded. The key ingredients to its interest to us was the fact that it was a full sentence. It wasn't so much that it had the word giants in it, or that it suggested that we had some larger future. In fact, we were kind of surprised that people thought that the they was referring to us. We just thought it was a kind of outward-looking paranoid name, and the fact that it was a full sentence seemed kind of interesting. They ran into a few early setbacks, including a robbery and a broken wrist. Despite this, they kept their momentum going by launching the Dial a Song service. If you were to call 387-6962, callers will be directed to a song of theirs instead of a typical voice message. This is probably why their songs are fairly short. They're short, catchy songs to fit the format. This service was first shared through posters and classified ads in the Village Voice. It also allowed callers to leave messages with their feedback on the songs. The band would discontinue the line in 2006 before resurrecting it in 2014, where it has since been a significant part of their legacy. Back to 1986, the band gained attention with their homemade demo tapes thanks to a review from Michael Small of the People magazine, leading to a deal with Bar None Records and the creation of their first official recordings. Their first album was self-titled, released on November 4th, 1986. It got positive reviews, but most critics dismissed them as a novelty act due to its humorous, quirky sound. It has a clever mix of genres and ironic lyrics. Their vocals are just full of spirit, including a lot of personality through their expressive, playful, confident, commanding, charming, energetic, free, and quirky tone. Hideaway Folk Family had wonderful, warm harmonies. Toddler Highway seemed like an attempt at doo-wop. They changed up their vocal style a few times on 32 Footsteps, Rabid Child, and Absolutely Bill's Mood, being being much more mellow and concerned. You can hear the pain in his voice on Nothing's Gonna Change My Clothes in comparison to the plenty of screams on She Was a Hotel Detective and the galloping nature of I Hope That I Get Old Before I Die. It's just a lot of fun vocally. Instrumentally, it's quite the variety. Alt rock, synth rock, indie pop rock, Zolo, new wave, art pop, polka rock, and acapella. Packed to the brim with swingy, groovy tracks with bright accordion, lush guitars, smooth drums, and wonderful synth work that you'll see throughout each record going forward. There are horn integrations on number 3, breakdowns on the big hit Don't Let's Start, harmonicas on 32 Footsteps, baritone saxophone on Nothing's Gonna Change My Clothes and She Was a Hotel Detective, and a blunt, challenging synth on the experimental Boat of Car. Absolutely Bill's Mood had a acoustic guitar solo that was performed over the phone, capturing this eerie feeling. It can get pretty overwhelming sometimes. There are cuts like accordion-led The Day and keyboard-led chess piece Face containing one instrument. You can easily get lost in the magic. As for lyrics, it gets more emotional and tragic hearing the struggle. Number 3 is literally the third song they ever wrote, as you can tell. Seems like a case of writer's block trying to string together a track by doing a bunch of yapping even though you plan to have 2 tracks in you. Feels surprised when he came up with this idea. A lonely child trying to talk to truckers through CB radio conversations on Rabid Child. Everything Right Is Wrong Again delves into being unable to find a solution as everything that seems right turns out to be wrong. 32 Footsteps portrays a man's struggle to get himself together after his lover gives him a month to do so. Once that 32nd day comes around, she leaves, or it's the amount of footsteps he hears when she walks away from him. Each step tells a story. A man locked up in a padded room within an insane asylum telling his backstory and hallucinates on Absolutely Bill's Mood. Nothing's Gonna Change My Clothes deals with accepting that life is full of challenges and the inevitability of curveballs, a domino effect of challenges. Nothing's gonna undo the damage they've dealt with. Youth culture killed my dog and alienation is for the rich both address personal and societal struggles, one through a quirky lens of self-worth and the other through a critique of the privileged notion of alienation. Did I just hear a hee-hee attempt? I Hope That I Get Old Before I Die is this hope to live a long, fully aged life before you die and not having your life cut short, fighting with thoughts of suicide. In comparison to Tales of Control, societal critique, and humor. Having fun with a girl who's a bit nosy, obsessive, and wants to know everything about you on She Was a Hotel Detective. Falling in love with either a girl or a literal angel on She Is an Angel. Put Your Hand Inside the Puppet Head encourages resisting the pressures of being controlled by someone and taking control of your own emotions with a sense of 80s charm. Don't Let's Start provides a playful take on feeling meaningless with lyrics that, despite their apparent gloominess, were written to support the melody without adding much meaning. Hideaway Folk Family reflects on the theme of a family hiding during a war, combining warmth with a more somber reality. Rhythm section Want Ad criticizes the commercialization of the music industry, contrasting passion with profit. Toddler Highway serves as a failed Toys R Us jingle, and Boat of Car presents an experimental, quirky narrative about an idiot who thought he could drive through the ocean. Then Chess Piece Face deals with a specific person you had memories with, but you unfortunately can't remember anything about them from that past relationship. While The Day humorously imagines 2 deceased artists coming together in marriage to make music in the afterlife. The band worked with director Adam Bernstein on music videos for Put Your Hand in the Puppet Head and Don't Let's Start, with the latter being the first indie video to make MTV's regular rotation. Their second album, Lincoln, was named after their hometown, released on September 25th, 1988. It featured the hit single Anna Ning, nearly making the top 10 on the modern rock songs chart. This record all around highlighted their blend of dark, humorous lyrics with catchy melodies, making them known for their mix of funny and sad songs. Another record that is ultimately hard to hate, featuring the same charmy, free, geeky, quirky vocals that make you smile. Cajun Aquarium and especially Mr. Me have wonderful harmonies. Cowtown has a screaming sound for the interludes between verses. The only one that departs from this vocal style is You'll Miss Me, EQ'd to be a lot rougher and aggressive. Seems like he's trying to make fun of an angry male using a silly weird voice. A bitter man claiming his ex will never find another man better than him had me not being sure what I just heard. He also appears to be quite pissed off on Santa's beard based on a situation of infidelity where his wife cheats on him with his friend who is dressed up as Santa Claus. I wish you would go, he's breaking up my home. Bro, just kick him out! Don't stand there, let your wife give him that milk and cookie. More instruments get added alongside the usual driving guitar grooves, warm accordions, occasional synthesizer riff, and pleasant percussion. Ending in Pencil Rain include an auto harp, snap-filled Lie Still Little Bottle, and Cajun accordion, and The World's Address has a bass saxophone present. Piece of Dirt features the bass clarinet, and You'll Miss Me, despite its edgy tone, the swing use of trumpets and bass saxophone stands out. Shoehorn with Teeth has a distinctive Celtic flavor with accordion, glockenspiel, and a variety